All right, hello everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here, and especially thank you so much for taking a couple hours out of your Saturday to support, great progressive candidates such as Joe for local office. I'm Bodie Shargell. I'm Joe Thompson's campaign manager for the city council race. I live in District 4, not 5, but Joe was able to convince me to take the arduous journey of being a campaign manager to make up for the fact that I can't vote for them. And it's especially important that y'all show up to support progressive candidates for local office. And I really want to highlight that. Because if we as progressives are going to be successful in instituting our, they call it the postmodern neo-Marxist agenda of helping people, making their lives better, securing humanity's future on Earth, combating climate change. If we're going to be successful in that, it involves building power from the bottom up and not the top down, right? We don't just show up one day and decide we want to get a majority in Congress or run for president. We organize people, we form unions, and we run for local office, and we go from there. Because that's the kind of movement that we're trying to build here. So this is just one of many, 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 many steps in that process. So speaking of organizing people and forming unions, I want to take the chance to invite up James Sandoval, who's a great friend from Smart Local 23, which is the union that represents Santa Cruz Metro workers. James actually, we're going to give him 2 rounds of applause. One because he was nice enough to come here and speak at this event, and 2 because he gave me a call yesterday. He wasn't sure if he would be able to make it because he just got promoted. It's okay to say this, right? Sure. Go ahead. Just got promoted to be international vice president with the Smart Union, representing all of their workers in the transit sector. So, James Sandoval, thank you so much for being here, especially since you're a bigwig now.
Thank you, Bodie. So, I'm here to tell you that our local, Smart Local 23, who represents the bus and paratransit drivers at Santa Cruz Metro, stands strong and endorse Joe Thompson. There's many reasons why, but I'll stick to the labor part of it. So for labor, let's be honest, the scales for the most part are not tilted in our favor for most of our battles. And labor represents people just like me and just like you. And Joe stands for working class. Joe stands for the working families. And we need strong voices in leadership roles to get stuff done. And Joe has the courage to do that. Joe has stood up to one of the biggest union-busting employers, and he organized the first 2 Starbucks here in California. And that's here in Santa Cruz County. So if I could get a round of applause for Joe for doing that. So I stand strong behind Joe. Our union stands strong behind Joe. And we want to support you all the way through because you're going to be a great asset to all of us here in this room, and we want to see you succeed. And what I also admire about you is that you're very young, and you're that spark that we need, and I'm excited to see where you're going to go. And thank you. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And as important as it is that y'all are here today supporting Joe and that we're building these connections with labor in attempts to, run for office as labor candidates. Let's take that forward. We have a labor walk, our first labor walk, big canvassing event coming up very soon on September 23rd, if I remember correctly, where we're going to be out with folks from SMART, from the building and construction trades, a bunch of other unions that are part of the Monterey Bay Central Labor Council, knocking on doors and introducing District 5 voters to Joe. So there's information about that at the entrance. It's up around here as well. So I hope that we can see at least some of you folks at an event like that as well, continuing to support. I want to take this opportunity next to invite someone up here who I think their name's John Laird. I don't know who that is. I was told that he was the first openly LGBT mayor of Santa Cruz and pretty much anywhere else. Yeah, you can clap for that. That's pretty cool. And has gone on to represent us in the state Senate. But I'm not sure. So, John Laird, come on up.
Thank you, Bodie. We have 700 bills to do in the next 4 days, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to remember my name by the time that's done. It's interesting because I do not endorse in local races, and guess where I am right now? And I think it's important, and I should say to James, 42 years ago, my first endorsement in the council race was the bus drivers union. And last year I did a really tough bill for them, so Joe, if you're in this for a long time, you have a lot of work to do on transit. And the thing is that Joe is everything that we know. It's the Starbucks organizer. He ran for the assembly last year, and he got 0.5% for every year of his age. If he was just about 60 or 70, he would have won. And he's graduating just significantly early than other people in his age group. We just know what an overachiever he is and what he's done thus far. And to sort of throw a little damper on this, I was recalling what happened to me in the first year or two after I was on the city council. And I remember, I think the first month, this whole neighborhood came down and they were arguing over a fence and whether it should have been 6 feet high or 8 feet high. And the neighborhood was split right down the middle. And there were people that had supported me in the campaign on both sides. And I'm pleased to inform Joe that was in the district where you're running. and it was just a year later that there was a street where school kids walked to school in your district, and there was no sidewalk. And it used to rain then. And so they were walking in the gutters in the rain, and it wasn't safe for kids. It wasn't a healthy thing. And yet everybody in that neighborhood had a mailbox on a post right next to the street. And the whole neighborhood turned out to say, don't make us cut down our mailboxes to be able to have kids have a safe way to get there. And in the end, we figured it out. But these are the types of issues, as we're talking about the Marxist dialectic and everything I heard about, that are going to be the things Joe faces. And in district elections, it's not as easy as when it was in at large, where if Joe lived in that neighborhood, he'd vote against it, get outvoted, and he'd survive, and you'd figure out what to do. He's going to be the sole representative from that district. He's going to have to figure out how to work it out for both sides. And so the thing I'm working toward is you shouldn't just walk, you shouldn't just put up a sign, you shouldn't just contribute. You're going to have to be there after the election. You're going to have to be there, because what happens is people think, oh, Joe's there, he'll do the right thing. And an angry crowd that disagrees with Joe will show up, and we'll all be at home watching on TV, counting on him to do the right thing, and he will be left flat-footed at the council meeting. And so I'm here to say, work your ass off to get him there, and then work your ass off to support him when that happens. Because there'll be crazy things. I mean, when I announced I was running for the Senate, it never occurred to me that the whole nation would lock down 7 days after the primary and I wouldn't be able to do anything, and that nobody could come to my swearing in, including my family. You don't know, believe me, when I was on the city council, we had a 7.1 earthquake that destroyed our downtown and closed it for 3 years. Joe's getting into this in a way that there's going to be some things happen that we don't see coming. And with the climate changing the way it is, as long as the eucalyptus trees are right there on a hill, he's gonna have to figure out what to do about the eucalyptus trees so the fire doesn't burn out of here into his district. And so just be with him all the way and support him, because I think it's gonna be a learning experience for him, but I think he is our future. And that's why I'm here. So thanks to all of you for supporting him, and just keep supporting him after the election.
Thank you, John. I'm really excited because I get to invite up next our speaker who's going to introduce Joe, who is the incumbent in this race, who has represented Santa Cruz on the city council for 8 years, was elected at large, and is now passing off the baton to Joe in a district election in District 5. That is, of course, Sandy Brown. Sandy's done such an amazing job over the last 8 years on city council as a progressive, and we're just so happy to have her support in this race and have her here today. Take it away.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I want to start out, it's such a pleasure to be here, I'll just say, to talk about why I support Joe Thompson for city council in the 5th district. And I want to start with, if I can find it here, a few of Joe's words. Just, I was reading, I've been watching the news coverage, and Joe has been out there and been interviewed and talked with many of you, people all over the district, all over the state, about his their political agenda, excuse me. And I got this one from a recent Bay Area Reporter interview. I'm running to take the fight for workers' rights and economic justice to the Santa Cruz City Council. And for me, that just about sums it up. I came up working as a labor and community organizer. I got involved in local elected office because I wanted to be a public servant, and I wanted to represent regular working people in our community who are struggling with displacement and gentrification. And those are the values that Joe holds. I'm gonna give you 3 reasons. I'm an academic as well, and we're not known for brevity. So I was just thinking, what are the things that make me feel like I trust Joe Thompson to represent this district and to represent all of us as progressives for this community? 1, lived experience. I think Joe maybe moved around as a kid more times than I did. And that struck me because the desire, the understanding of how people struggle to have stability and security in their lives when they're working hard, when they want to have families, when they want to be able to live, have some quality of life, and also work for justice, perhaps in their kind of extracurricular life as well. And we don't have a community like that when the median home price makes it impossible for anyone that I can think of to be able to buy a home here. And that means that we're renters. And that means that stability in a market like this is very challenging. And so Joe, understanding that, just fundamentally makes me trust that Joe is going to represent the needs and interests and challenges of our community, the people I care about in our community. And I care about all of our community. My slogan was a Santa Cruz for all of us. That's another thing that Joe does. I actually have 4. We're supposed to have 3, but I have 4. Joe has cast a very wide net and is talking to people about their issues, talking with people about their policy agendas. Joe is doing the work. Joe is serious. Joe's a serious candidate. Done more work than any candidate for a city council race, or really any local race that I can think of in my long history of working on local politics. And so actually those were 2 together. So the third one and the last one I'll say is that Joe has what I feel is really an intuitive and innate sense of justice. So the lens through which they look and view what's going on is always thinking about how do we achieve justice for working people, for families, for seniors, for youth, right? That is the lens. And I'll just leave it there and say, that when we think about that, that's a very different lens than a lot of folks who have represented us over the years. Present company excluded, I'd say. So those are the reasons. Lived experience, seriousness of commitment to public service, not just in a campaign, but doing the work, serving on boards, organizing workers, all the things we know, and the innate sense of justice. And so what I want to do here, Joe, is I introduce you to talk about yourself, because we want to hear from you today. I represent this district right now. I was elected at large, but I've been working hard to really understand the district and to think about the needs of different parts of this district. It's quite a diverse district. So as the 5th district representative, I want to do something that happened for a decade, 72 years, I think, total. In Mexico, the Institutional Revolutionary Party would have a president, and then that president would, at the end of their term or towards the end of their term, give the dedazo, right? They call it the dedazo. Point the finger to the next president. And I want to say that I'm here to give that dedazo to Joe Thompson. Unlike in Mexico, it is not a foregone conclusion that a candidate who receives it will be elected. And right now things are looking good without another candidate in the race. We can't be sure that that will be the case because we've got some time to go. So I'm also going to make a huge pitch. I think that Senator Laird's pitch about sticking around is so critical, so I want to highlight that. And now I want to make a pitch and ask you all to dig very deep today and think about how you can support Joe right now. And that would be with a contribution of money, whatever you can give. It's important. Joe has raised $9,300. That's a big difference. This time, in the cycle was not. I was not there. Joe is serious. And the way to ensure that Joe wins this election and that there aren't a whole bunch of other candidates sniffing around is to give Joe money now. And the second thing is to dig deep and think about how many hours you're willing to put in walking precincts, because that is critical too. And so you're going to get those calls, and there are folks who are going to ask you to contribute today. I don't know if they're coming around, if they're going to come around, or if they'll come around after Joe speaks. But please do give what you can right now, and then you won't have to hear from us over and over for the rest of the campaign. Thank you so much. Come on up, Joe Thompson. Woo!
So can I just say thank you all so much for coming out here and spending your Saturday with me and just hearing about the issues that matter to all of us. That's really what we're here to do today and what we're here to talk about. And for me, this is very true. I grew up in a working class family. Both my parents are here. I bet most of you guys have met them. But for me, we were growing up, we moved a lot. We did move a lot, and that was a really big struggle for us. And my first job, I actually worked as a busboy in a pizza joint. And it was for $7.25 minimum wage. And to me, that really enlightened my experience. And the reason why I got a job was because I was struggling to pay my bills and to support my family. And when we started thinking about what I could do, I had $20,000 out of pocket medical expenses for dental insurance. Think about that. You're just trying to get by and survive, and this huge cost immediately makes it so you cannot afford to do anything else until this is dealt with. And so for me, that kind of got me started into why is the system like this? Why do we have a system in our country that does not allow people to have Medicare for all and to have their insurance paid for and to feel that need and necessity met? So that's the reason why I got involved in politics more broadly. And the first campaign I worked on and volunteered on was Bernie Sanders in 2016. And he has been an amazing inspiration for me. But today, looking in this room, I see so many of my mentors and people I look up to here. And it's so great to have our senator here, John Laird, Sandy Brown, the current incumbent, and other people supporting me. It really just makes me feel that we can do this. And I know we can. I know we can. And that's why I really want to ask you guys to help me win this. But just to give you a little bit more of my history, right now I work at SEIU 1021 as a Starbucks union organizer. I was the lead Starbucks union organizer here in Santa Cruz. And that was a tough fight. And James Sandoval mentioned how hard it was. Starbucks is the largest union busting company, not only in our entire country, but the world. The amount of union busting that they put their employees through, I'm now experiencing that on the union side, representing the workers and still fighting for them every day, day in and day out, because of the struggle that workers face across our entire country. Even locally in Santa Cruz, when you need $60 an hour to afford housing in Santa Cruz, it's completely unlivable. It makes it people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. So that's why when we look at things like justice and we think about how can we move Santa Cruz forward and make it better for all of us, that's why I'm running. I want to make Santa Cruz a place that we can all live, afford to live here, make it a safe environment, have better workplace protections for workers, and truly fight to make Santa Cruz the best place we can, because we all want to live here. We all love it here. We all love it here. And that's what I think is the really important part that brings people to Santa Cruz, is because we love it here. Santa Cruz feels like home, and that's why I've wanted to stay and build my home here, because I've met so many amazing people that I can see here today. And it's just been a great journey to be able to work alongside many of you, to have mentorship from you, and to build these connections and build these bridges, because that is what we need to do. And one of the people here I want to acknowledge is Rob Moore. He's a council member in Los Gatos. And he came in, there was some traffic over the hill. And what are you going to do about it? We're going to do something about it. That's what we're talking about. But those are the issues that we're talking about. We're talking about fences. We're talking about building affordable housing. We're talking about potholes. You know, I always joke, city council isn't sexy, but it's what needs to get done. And I'm jealous of John Laird, who's voted on 700 bills. But you know, it's one of those things too where these politics really matter. This is where we get stuff done. And at the local level, Sandy Brown has been representing us so dearly and for so long. And I'm so honored to have her support and endorsement to carry on that legacy, because it truly has been a legacy in Santa Cruz. I really want to thank you all for coming out today, and we'll be taking some photos right back here, but it really means a lot to have each and every one of you coming out here and supporting me, and it is just such a heartwarming moment for me. So I want to thank you all, and we're going to win this, and I'm super excited. Thank you.